Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back, taking some time in your day and learning from me. Today I have a very applicable video for a lot of people, especially like high school students who can't really track their food that well because your parents cook for you or whatever the issue may be, and for a lot of people who just don't want to track their macros. So this video will be all about that. I'm gonna give you my top tips to lose weight without tracking every single macro. So it's gonna be very beneficial for a lot of people. So more specifically, who does this really apply to? Well, for the people who get real bad anxiety and it really messes with their head when they track and count all their food, weigh out all their food, this is definitely the video for you. I'm gonna talk about the pros and cons of tracking every single macro at the end of the video more, but this is definitely the video for you if you get really bad anxiety and it just really messes with your head, messes with your day, puts you in a bad mood if all you're thinking about is food and all of your calories. Also, for the people who can't really track their food that well, they're still young, their parents are cooking all their food. I know in high school that, like for me, I didn't really cook most of my food, so it was really hard to weigh out everything you're eating. So this definitely will apply to you, as well as busy people who just don't really have the time in the day or don't really want to that bad to make more time to track their macros. So this is gonna be applicable to you as well, and pretty much everyone who just does not want to track their calories all the time. First, I want to discuss what fat loss actually comes down to. How do you lose fat? So first of all, you want to be in a caloric deficit where you're taking in less calories than your body needs. This is essential. You will not lose weight or fat without being in a caloric deficit. There are exceptions, which I'll get to, but they're like very extreme. So you need to be in a caloric deficit if you want to see weight loss and fat loss. As well, you need to keep a high protein diet to help maintain your muscle. It is also very thermogenic and will fill you up a lot more as it's very satiating. And you want to maintain your strength in the gym. This is so important. If you just stop working out in a caloric deficit, you would lose a ton of muscle. So by hitting the gym, keeping your strength, maintaining your strength in the gym on your key compound lifts like the bench press, pull-ups, all that kind of stuff, you will maintain most of your muscle. As a beginner, you can probably gain muscle in a caloric deficit, but just for the average person, you will maintain your muscle if you're maintaining your strength in the gym. So if you follow those three things, a caloric deficit, a high protein diet, and you maintain your strength in the gym, you will be losing fat. Now, the exceptions to this are mostly new lifters where you can perform a body recomposition. So if you enter a small caloric deficit and you just start lifting, you will actually gain muscle in a deficit because the stimulus is so freaking large, the calories are being partitioned towards muscle growth. That's how crazy the newbie gains actually are. So you will probably be gaining some weight in a caloric deficit. You will still be losing fat, but you will be gaining muscle. So if you actually want to optimize your muscle growth, I wouldn't recommend entering a caloric deficit once you start lifting. That's a whole other video though, but just know there are some exceptions. If you're a new lifter, you may not see the scale go down right away because you are gaining some muscle right when you enter a caloric deficit. But over time, the newbie gains will go away and you will be losing weight overall in a caloric deficit. That's just the first law. Thermodynamics, you're not gonna break it. All right, so let's get right into the tips. So the first one, you probably hear it a lot, it's eat more protein and try to eat protein at every single meal throughout the day. Protein is very satiating and will fill you up a lot more than just carbs and fats. So I highly recommend adding in more protein to your diet if you're not already eating a high protein diet, and try and spread that protein out throughout the day. So have some at breakfast, lunch, dinner, depending on how many meals you have. Try and have it at every single meal. There's some type of protein. It could be chicken and then eggs and then salmon and then whatever, Greek yogurt at night. It doesn't matter. Just try and spread that protein out and you will be a lot more full throughout the day. And this is gonna help you better create a caloric deficit. Also, it's one of our pillars, getting enough protein. That's essential. So we've already covered that by getting in enough protein at each meal. All right, so my second tip is going to be eat more fiber. You're gonna get more fiber from eating more green leafy vegetables, so pick your favorites and try and get more fiber and try and eat it at every single meal along with protein. Veggies will take up a lot more space in your stomach for a very low calorie trade-off. They're very low calorie and they're very voluminous. You can eat a ton of them for very little calories. So I highly recommend trying to get a lot more veggies, which you will get more fiber from, the green leafy ones, and that is going to keep you more full, take up more space in your stomach, and therefore allow you to better create a caloric deficit without necessarily tracking. All right, so the third tip I have for you guys is a very important one, and it is to not drink liquid calories. I see this mistake happen all the time with people. They just drink their juices and all this crap, and they're so easily drank. It does not fill you up at all. There was this one study that looked at the food viscosity on filling you up, satiety. They had a liquid, a semi-liquid, and a semi-solid. And of course, they found that the liquid was so easily drank a lot more, and they weren't as hungry, and they were therefore going to eat more food than if you ate a more solid food. So I highly suggest staying away from liquid calories. Just drink water or 0-calorie drinks. You're gonna free up a lot more calories for food, which is going to actually fill you up instead of just drinking orange juice and then wanting another glass right away. And also, when people do drink juices and stuff, they don't even track them. They just forget about them altogether. And that's another mistake. You're missing out on like 200 calories from that glass of orange juice, which won't fill you up. So yes, definitely stay away from liquid calories. This is a massive mistake people make too often. So just tying back that study that looked at solids versus liquids and their effect on satiety, liquids do not take up that much space in your stomach. Think of like drinking olive oil. All oils do not take up much room in your stomach. Liquids don't take up that much room in your stomach, but veggies and these big voluminous foods do, and that's gonna make you more full and less likely to overeat and enter a caloric surplus to gain weight. So my fourth tip for you guys is to drink more water. I recommend drinking water before and right after you eat. Drinking more water is going to fill you up. I know it doesn't take up that much room in your stomach alone, but if you're eating on top of it, drinking a glass right before, it will fill you up a lot more. So I highly recommend it. Also, water is 0 calories, lots of health benefits, obviously, so you wanna get your water in. Drinking tons of water throughout the day, you are going to stay a lot more full. Trust me, I do this when I cut. I have these gallons of water I just drink, and I have a massive cup that I drink out of all day, and it just keeps me so much more full than if I wasn't drinking it. It's a really good hack, so I highly recommend you use it. Now, my fifth tip, very controversial, skip breakfast and perform intermittent fasting. And I know what you're gonna think, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. It's not, and that's a whole other video topic to go over, but just know you do not need to have breakfast if you do not want to. And what this allows people to do is create a smaller time window to actually eat more food. Therefore, some people will be more likely to eat less food if they have less time, and therefore more easily create a caloric deficit. Now, this is highly individual. Some people will not be able to fast. They will be way too hungry, but some people will be able to do this a lot easier. So it's really individual. If you want to give it a shot, go for it. You do not have to. There's no magic properties to intermittent fasting. It's just creating a smaller window so you have more or less time to eat, therefore more likely to eat less calories. Up to you, personal choice. Give it a shot if you want. Tip number 6. Now, this is more of a bonus tip, but it is to drink black coffee. I do this all the time, and it definitely does blunt my hunger a little bit, and I use it if I am intermittent fasting during that fasting stage. It's got like no calories, maybe 2 calories, so it's perfectly fine to have during your fast, but you have to make sure you're not putting in any sugar or cream because you're gonna have to track that amount of calories, so just have it black. Now, there's this one study by Greenberg et al. In 2012. They found that decaffeinated coffee actually reduces hunger a lot more than just regular caffeinated coffee. They still found that caffeinated coffee does reduce hunger, but decaffeinated coffee was the most hunger reducing type. So if you want to use decaffeinated coffee, go for it. I personally just stick with the caffeinated coffee and drink it black to wake me up. But it's up to you if you want to use decaf or not, perfectly fine if you do. They will both help to blunt your hunger a little bit. They're not like these magical tools, but they do blunt your hunger. Coffee does blunt your hunger, trust me, from my anecdotal evidence and a lot of studies supporting it. So I want to touch on the benefits of not tracking your calories and your macros. The most obvious one is going to be the mental health benefit. So I touched on it earlier. You're going to have less stress, less anxiety if you do get bad anxiety from tracking than you would if you were tracking every single macro. So if you want to, have a better relationship with food, less anxiety, I would just recommend following these tips. and you will definitely be able to lose weight. Your relationship with food should better as you go on, because you're not worrying so much about every single calorie you're putting in your body and every single macro, because that does mess with people's heads if you're doing it too often. That's why I don't recommend doing it 365 days a year. You definitely need time off. There's a time and place for it. But if you're someone who it just really bothers, and I totally get that, then follow these tips for sure. And it's going to be very helpful for losing that initial 5 to 10 pounds effortlessly, pretty much, because adding these in, you probably won't be too hungry at all. Actually, you won't be hungry, so you'll probably lose the first 10 pounds or so. Don't quote me on that, but first 10 pounds or so pretty effortlessly. And then there's gonna come a time and place where you're gonna have to track though. If you just want to lose 10 pounds or so, these tips will probably be just enough for you, and you'll probably be able to do it pretty effortlessly. But if you want to lose more weight and get pretty lean, like to a lower body fat percentage, be more of that like 1% of people, you are going to have to track your calories. There's no way around it. You're gonna have to track. You're not gonna be able to just do these tips and get extremely shredded. I know that's probably what you wanted to hear. Like, that's not gonna happen. You want to know exactly how much you're getting from protein. You wanna make sure you're optimizing how many carbs you're getting in for workout performance, because when you're low body fat, your workouts performance is going to tank if you're not getting enough carbs, and you have to make sure you're getting enough fats for optimal health for sure. So if you want to get really shredded and that 1%, you are going to have to track at some point. But if you just want to lose that first 10 pounds, just follow these tips and it should be working for you, unless you're just going crazy on weekends or something. This should work for you. Some other cons associated with just following these tips are that you still need to be conscious. So that's not a massive con, but you still need to be conscious of what you eat. Very conscious. Like, it's similar to tracking. You have to make sure you're getting in protein and fiber at each meal. So for me, I would personally just track because I'm okay with it and it doesn't affect my mental health at all. But for someone who it does affect, I get it, okay? I totally get it. A lot of people I know have issues with their relationship with food, so this would benefit them. But you can't just go, like, you still have to be conscious. There still has to be some level of tracking in your head, just the baseline, so remember that for sure. Personally, I've found that adding in higher calorie foods with all these tips is a lot harder because you do not know how many calories are actually in these higher calorie foods. If you were tracking your calories, you would know how many calories are in that food and how many calories to swap in if you want to add it in for something else, let's say a potato versus a cheesecake, and you just swap out the calories if you want to fit that cheesecake in. But that's a lot harder if you're not tracking your calories, because you don't know how many calories are in that, and that food, that one food you added in, could be putting you into a surplus, and therefore you're not going to be losing weight anymore. So it's a lot harder to add more flexibility into the diet. It's a lot more strict, in my opinion, with these tips. You just protein at every meal, fiber at every meal, but it is very sustainable for some people. You'll definitely lose weight if you follow these tips, assuming you're not just going crazy on weekends or something like that. You'll definitely lose weight. You will hit a plateau, like I said, eventually, okay? You might lose 15 pounds before that happens, might be 10 pounds. That's not a set in stone number, but you're gonna end up at a plateau eventually, and you're gonna have to track your calories if you want to lose more body fat. Some people will definitely be satisfied with the weight they lost without tracking, and that's awesome. I love that for you. But for the 1% of people who want to get pretty lean, you're gonna have to track. I really hope you enjoyed this video and I brought you so much value with this video. If I did, please leave it a like. That would be amazing and I appreciate it so much. Of course, make sure you subscribe, put on some notifications with that little bell button if you want to be notified when my videos come out. I'm always interacting with people in the comments, so any questions below, please ask them. I will definitely respond, and if not, I will definitely see you next time.